us. So if you'd just be patient with us this morning, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Dr. Locklear, this is Derek Jordan. Let me say good morning to you. We met some time ago when you presented to superintendents and school boards across the state. And I just want to thank you for your leadership.
Thank you. It's nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Dr. Locklear did a nice job last week at State Board.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. It's because of the support of SACE. Our SACE members are certainly the foundation of this work.
Definitely. Tiffany, do you have your regalia all pressed and pressed?
I do. I just pulled it down from upstairs, and I am ready for tonight.
I haven't seen mine in 2 years.
I know.
God, I was afraid I wasn't going to pull it together, but I did find it all.
Yeah. All right, I think we have enough members that we can go ahead and get started this morning. Good morning indeed. Happy Friday. This May SACE meeting is called to order. Dr. Silver, will you please do a roll call for us?
Certainly. Good morning, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. Just as a reminder, before I do roll call, we are streaming live on YouTube. So make sure to identify yourself as you start speaking. I'm going to go through and do a roll call, so you'll need to unmute yourself to indicate that you are here, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Randy Jacobs.
Here, and good morning.
Good morning. Cameo Lanning. Melissa Lee.
Morning.
Good morning. Rhea Jacobs. Tina Lance. Rodney Jackson.
Good morning. I'm here.
Good morning. Angela Richardson.
Good morning. I'm here. Angela Richardson, Halifax County Rep.
Good morning. Mr. Frank Cooper. Amanda Frazard.
Present. Amanda Frazard. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Miss Dorothy.
Good morning, Dorothy Yates, present.
Good morning. LaRonda Lowry. Representative Graham. Representative Goodwin.
This is LaRonda. I'm here.
Oh, LaRonda. Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I hadn't seen your name pop up. I'm sorry. And Margot Howard. Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. So I certainly appreciate everyone's willingness to serve American Indian students in our great state. Again, please be reminded that we are YouTube Live, so make sure you mute your mics. Before we begin, we need to approve the agenda and minutes. Do we have a motion to approve today's agenda as printed?
Motion to approve. Yates, I approve the agenda.
Second it, Melissa Lee.
Any opposed? We'll move forward by affirmation. I hope everyone's had an opportunity to look over the minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
Angela Richardson, motion to approve minutes with any said corrections.
Rodney Jackson, I second.
Any opposed? We will move forward by affirmation. Thank you, guys. Our first item on the agenda for today is our State Board of Education member, Dr. Olivia Oxendine. Dr. Oxendine, as always, thank you for joining us to provide State Board of Education updates.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's always a pleasure to be a part of SACE meetings. and to find out all the good things that you're doing on behalf of American Indian students in North Carolina, and just to extend on behalf of the State Board of Education our gratitude for all that you do in these meetings and all that you do after meetings and all that you do to prepare that very wonderful annual report that Dr. Locklear recently presented to the State Board. I'm going to not take up very much of your meeting time. I do want to, I'm very happy and very delighted. It's almost like an announcement that needs a drum roll. But I'm very pleased to say that in the State Board of Education budget request to the General Assembly, there is an item to employ a person, a Native American individual who will be dedicated to a variety of things, all things Native American Indian students, to work closely with SACE, to perhaps serve in a liaison capacity, very much like a coordinator out of DPI, very much like Dr. Silver so graciously does for you and for us. And also this individual will be responsible for working across the entire agency, all initiatives that have implications for the achievement of American Indian students. This person will be at the table, weighing in, giving suggestions, helping frame whatever educational initiative that might be up for discussion, making sure that it has a American Indian focus and making sure that it has a Native American Indian flavor. Now, what I can't promise is, I can promise you that the item for this position is certainly in the State Board of Education budget request. I can't promise anything beyond that other than to say that our legislative team within DPI and also working closely with the State Board of Education will do their level best to make sure that the General Assembly gives good attention, full attention, and hopefully will approve that budget request. So again, it has been on your agenda for a long, long time. It has come up in almost every meeting I've attended, an item for discussion. It has appeared in your annual SACE reports for a number of years. It has been the talk of SACE for a long time. So this is a milestone. Just to get it in the State Board of Education budget, that is a milestone. And to get it across the street over in the General Assembly and get their backing and their approval and then the money, then we'll be in a good position in the next few months to be talking about hiring this individual. So I'll take your questions if you have any.
What will the title of the position be, Dr. Oxendine?
Well, is that Mr. Jackson?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. It's good seeing your name and hearing your voice. We haven't really nailed down a title. It could be something, I really don't want to go there too firmly. It could be a consultant at a reasonably high level, or it could be a director. Those pieces just haven't been ironed out.
Okay.
Dr. Silver, would you like to add anything to that?
Good morning again, everybody. Not much. What we've been playing around with tentatively is something around Director of American Indian Student Services or something along that line. But as Dr. Oxendine said, just too early out right now. The first thing is getting the ask out there and hopefully some advocacy around that to get that approved.
Mm-hmm. What I would say to you, to each of you, if you know legislators in your communities, in your counties, I would urge you to get with them on the phone or meet them over coffee or wherever you see them. Could be in church, community meetings, tribal meetings, and let them know that the State Board of Education has included this position in the budget. It will be going over to the General Assembly for the short session, and you get their full support behind it. That's what you can do. You wear an advocacy hat, and I can't think of a better time to put that hat on tightly and wear it proudly.
This is Dorothy Yates. I would like to say a special thank you to you, Dr. Oxendine, and to our SACE chair, Dr. Locklear, and Mr. Greg Richardson, and others that have advocated for this position, all of the SACE members in the past that have seen this as a need for our American Indian students. And I just would like to thank all of you as a team for the efforts that have been made for us to get this far. It is a great hurdle that we've made, and I just appreciate your hard work, and I look forward to us working hard for this to become a fruition. Thanks again.
Thank you, Ms. Yates, and you have been right there every step of the way. So it has truly been the epitome of teamwork. So that's my report, Madam Chair. It's a short, sweet, and important.
Yes, thank you. I just want to also say thank you and share gratitude for you and the support that you brought from the State Board of Education, and including this position as part of the budget request. We really appreciate that advocacy from the State Board of Education perspective. So thank you indeed.
My pleasure. Have a good rest of your meeting. I'll stick around for a little bit, but I'll have to be leaving probably in about 30 minutes, but I'll be here for a while.
Okay, thank you so much. Next on our agenda, we will receive updates from the North Carolina Commission of Indian Affairs. We have with us our very own Ms. Dorothy Yates, who's the Vice Chair for the North Carolina Commission of Indian Affairs. Good morning, Ms. Yates. We look forward to updates from your department.
Thank you so much. Mr. Greg Richardson regrets he couldn't be with us this morning, but he is very busy in his very active role as the Executive Director of the Commission of Indian Affairs, with very important things happening that's taking his attention at this time. So I do present this report on his behalf. Governor Roy Cooper declared May the 5th as a day of awareness for missing and murdered Indigenous women, raising awareness on the disproportionate rate of American Indian and Alaska Native women who have disappeared from their homes and lost their lives due to acts of violence. According to a study conducted on behalf of the United States Department of Justice, in some tribal communities, Indigenous women face murder rates that are roughly 10 times the national average. In addition, the National Institute of Justice estimates that 84% of Indigenous women experience violence in their lifetime. The tribes had awareness activities in each of the individual tribal communities in recognition of this Awareness Day. Our next item, Chairman Ricky Burnett has announced the upcoming commission retreat and work session, which will be held June the 2nd and 3rd at Campbell University in Buies Creek, North Carolina. The facilitator will be Dr. Priscilla Maynor. The tentative agenda includes a discussion and review of the following topics: the Department of Administration mission, vision, values, and goals, the commission mission, the commission general statutes, the commission bylaws, and the committees and committee structure of the commission. The next item, we have some commission vacancies that are effective each year on June the 30th of 2022. And as in the past, we have some of the members that will be returning with their recommendation from their tribes and organization. And we will have some newly appointed members also that will be taking place after their the original terms expire on June the 30th. Also, the Commission Executive Director, Mr. Richardson, continues to assist the state-recognized tribes, along with consultation from NC Pro, in developing the required resolutions needed to begin the process of the funding allocations for the pandemic recovery funding. So this is very important action that our tribes are given attention to at this time. Mr. Richardson is pleased to announce that Ms. Candace Lowry has been selected as the Deputy Director after trying to get this position established for many years. Mr. Richardson would like to thank Secretary Caswell for pushing hard to make this happen. Ms. Candace Lowry has a bachelor's degree in biology from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill and a master's degree from the University of Phoenix with a degree in public administration. She has served as director of the Workforce Innovation Opportunities Act program for the past 3 years. She has a total of 8 years experience in workforce development programs and 16 years of experience in state government. Candace is an enrolled member of the Lumbee Tribe of North Carolina, and she has 3 children. This was a popular position. We received 47 applications, and 27 of them were referred as highly qualified by the Human Services Division. Interviews were scheduled for 9 of the candidates, and then a second round of interviews were scheduled with the top 3 applicants. And Ms. Candace Lowry was selected from that group of applicants. So we welcome her to the commission, and we welcome the Deputy Director position. Mr. Richardson has also been involved with the staffing of the North Carolina American Indian Heritage Commission. This commission was created in the state budget to advise and assist Mr. Reed Wilson as Secretary of the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources in the preservation, interpretation, and promotion of American Indian history, arts, customs, and culture. So we look forward to the work of this newly formed commission. It will in no way take from the North Carolina Commission of Indian Affairs. Each of these commissions have a different objective with the work that they will perform. And as a member of the selection committee of the American Indian Fund Scholarship, I would like to report that we met on May the 11th of 2022. 24 scholarships for $1,000 were awarded to 11 previous recipients, and 13 were awarded to the new first-time recipients. The scholarship may be awarded for 4 years. So we're very excited for these 24 recipients of the American Indian Fund Scholarship. Thank you. This concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Yates. Are there any questions for Ms. Yates? Ms. Yates, I would just like to say that on behalf of SACY, we really appreciate the Commission of Indian Affairs working really closely with the governor. The progress is certainly recognized, and congratulations to Ms. Lowry. She was actually a classmate of mine. So welcome indeed. I have no doubt in the value that she'll bring to the Commission of Indian Affairs. Thank you, Ms. Yates.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is the Office of Learning, Recovery, and Acceleration. Ms. Tina Lance, one of our SACE members, will be presenting, and Ms. Lynn Barber, who is the Deputy Director of Office of Learning, Recovery, and Acceleration. Welcome, Ms. Lance and Ms. Barber.
Chairman Locklear, I don't believe that Ms. Barber has joined us yet, so if we could move up and have Dr. Jordan present at this time, that might be best.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you. So next we will hear updates from the Office of Equity. Dr. Derek Jordan has joined us as the Associate State Superintendent of Agency Schools, Office of Educational Equity. Welcome, Dr. Jordan.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Good morning to everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to join your meeting today. I would just like to begin by saying that I recognize that I am likely no substitute for Dr. Catherine Edmonds, but you all likely know that Dr. Edmonds transitioned from the Department of Public Instruction effective at the end of April. And so we are currently in transition, and I'll talk a little more about that in a few moments. But I would like to say thank you so much for your service. I want to echo Dr. Oxendine's sentiments related to the annual report that was presented by Chair Locklear. Very well done. Appreciated the opportunity to hear about the work of SACE. We are looking forward to continue support on behalf of our American Indian students across the state of North Carolina. With respect to the Office of Educational Equity, as I just indicated, Dr. Catherine Edmonds had been the Deputy Director for the Office of Educational Equity, and now with her transition, that leaves a void. We are in the process of having conversations about restructuring the Department of Public Instruction to equalize reporting responsibilities and to ensure that we are operating as efficiently and soundly as possible. So our state superintendent has convened multiple meetings with senior leadership to talk about the needs as they are currently, and to make some determinations about how best to organize and fill the gaps that we currently have as a result of not only Dr. Edmonds' transition, but one other transition as well. The good news is that we are well positioned to move forward and to ensure that no beats are missed. You may also know that the Office of Educational Equity was to be a unit within that particular division under Dr. Edmonds' leadership. We have not yet acquired any funding for that office, and so that office does not have any direct personnel. But I will share that we have a number of other areas operating under that umbrella. In that division are the accountability office, they deal with testing primarily. We also have licensure and educator prep, the Exceptional Children's Division, District and Regional Support, Alternative Education, residential schools as well. So a very robust division, and it's likely that some of these areas may shift once the restructuring plan has been organized. And so, Madam Chair, again, a lot of transition, but we are absolutely standing firmly on the commitment to ensure that the work moves forward. And you have an excellent champion in Dr. Silver. I appreciate the primary work that she's responsible for, as well as her very solid commitment to Stacey's work. And I thought it might be worthwhile if I gave an opportunity for any questions that you or other board members may have. I may or may not be able to answer those on the spot, but I will absolutely, if I'm unable to answer something on the spot, I will absolutely get an answer and ensure that the answer is communicated back to all members. So at this time, I'm open for any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Dr. Jordan. Thank you for those updates. Do we have any questions for Dr. Jordan?
Madam Chair, this is Cameo. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. I just have a quick question for Dr. Jordan.
Sure.
Hi. Dr. Jordan, my name is Cameo Lanning. I'm the parent representative for the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indian. And I know that you mentioned that there would be some restructuring. Would that restructuring be done at the end of the fiscal year whenever budgets and stuff get approved, or will it be done beforehand?
That's an excellent question, and thank you for that. We are not solidly sure when all of the restructurings will take place. We are certainly trying to make some final decisions within the next few weeks, and that's primarily because of Dr. Edmonds' departure and another senior member of the team's departure. So in as much as there will likely be some decisions made within the next few weeks, I cannot assure you that all of the decisions will be made. And as is the case for most complex organizations, we'll always reserve the right to continue fine-tuning to ensure that we are operating efficiently.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Are there any other questions for Dr. Jordan? Thank you for taking time out of your schedule, Dr. Jordan, to join Stacey today to provide updates from your office. We really appreciate it and look forward to a partnership or collaboration in the near future. Thank you indeed.
Thank you. Look forward to the continued partnership as well.
I still don't think Miss Barbara has joined us, so at this time we can do Title VI updates for Mr. Ronnie Jackson. Is that okay with you, Mr. Jackson?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
And I'm going to be really short because there's not much new update. The Title VI Grant Part 2 closes today, May 13th at 11:59 p.m. So if you're submitting your grant, it needs to be submitted before 11:59 tonight. I think most counties, most districts have received their allotment amount, what they will be receiving, and I think everyone has received an increase in their allotment, which I think everyone's really happy with that. That is all that I really have, Dr. Locklear.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for those Title VI updates.
Dr. Locklear,
Yes.
would this be a convenient time that you could update us on your report to the State Board of Education of the Stacey report?
Sure. So May 4th or 5th, can't remember what day it was. Last Wednesday, I presented the Stacey report, the 2022 report. In that report, I gave, the mission and vision of Stacey. I shared that with the State Board of Education members. I shared the data that informed the recommendation that we constructed and We also discussed the appendices that were included, which was our 2021 recommendations, the continued support for getting rid of American Indian mascots in the state of North Carolina, and that list of schools that still remain to have those. And then, of course, I really discussed our one recommendation around that position that Dr. Oxendine discussed. The report was received very well and has been approved, so it should be in the press, right, Dr. Silver?
Yes, so the report went in April for discussion first, so that means it'll go in June. It'll be on the June agenda to be approved.
Okay, thank you. So it was well received. So we're looking forward to the report coming out in July. Thank you, Dr. Yates, Ms. Yates. Are there any questions concerning the SACE report or giving that report? I really didn't have any questions that day. Dr. Oxendine did provide some insights on that position to share her support of that recommendation. So I certainly appreciate her for that support on the day of delivering the SACE report.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, at this time we will receive updates from Dr. Silver from the North Carolina Department of Instruction.
Good morning again, everyone. Madam Chair, thank you for this opportunity to share with the council. Just for a point of record for the minutes, I wanted to note that after we did the roll call, Cameo Lanning joined, Rhea Jacobs, Tina Lance, and Rhea Jacobs all joined. So I just wanted to make note of that so that it can be reflected in the minutes when we go back and do those. A couple of things I wanted to share. So as Dr. Lochner mentioned, the SACE report did go for discussion to the state board at the May meeting. It will go for approval in June. Also on the state board's June agenda will be approval of the recommended council members for the upcoming term that came over from the North Carolina Commission of Indian Affairs. They are recommending, and Ms. Dorothy, you might have to jump in to help me. I don't have my notes right in front of me. I believe 4 new members and Mr. Jackson for a second term. So those will be going to state board for approval, and those usually go through pretty easily. The other thing I wanted to speak to was once those new members are approved, we will then move forward with setting meetings for the upcoming year. So look forward to around July receiving a doodle poll so that we can get the 4 quarterly meetings scheduled. So be looking for that. The most important thing I wanted to talk about today, you received an email, but I wanted to bring it up again. Dr. Briggs, if you could click on that link that says textbook evaluation recruitment. So one thing we've had a lot of discussion about this year, it started with discussions about the social studies standards, and then there was discussion about textbook adoption. And one thing that we do know, and Dr. Oxendine, I know you're still on, so if you want to pause for a minute to talk about the recommendation about the textbook commission before I get into that, let me pause and let you do that very quickly if you could, Dr. Oxendine.
Dr. Silver, I'm sorry, I should have included that in my SBE update. Yes, Superintendent Catherine Truitt was interested in naming American Indian to the textbook commission. That's another issue or another subject that's been on the mind of SACE, questions around who serves on the commission, what are the roles of the commission, and this is all tied to making sure that textbooks properly represent the history and the topics and the issues and everything related to American Indian people in North Carolina or the nation for that matter. that textbooks do the right job with that and other resources. So I'm very pleased that the Superintendent Truitt did reach out to me and ask for a name. And the one who came to mind, the name that has been submitted, and I believe she has done some work with SACE. She works with the early college. I can't remember the name of the early college. I'm sorry, that escapes me. But it's Shannon Brayboy. Shannon's name has been submitted to the governor. This must have been a Governor Cooper appointment. So her name has been submitted to the governor to serve, to be a representative, to serve on that very important textbook commission. So that's another reason to cheer the work of SACE that has been on your mind, and it's been in conversations, and it's appeared on the agenda, many agendas over the last number of years. So that's another step forward for American Indian students in North Carolina and educators. Do you have questions? I'll keep you updated once that's final. I'll certainly update and give information to Dr. Silver and Dr. Locklear, and perhaps come back to a SACE meeting and give you the outcome on that.
Thank you, Dr. Oxendine. So at a previous meeting earlier this year, Dr. Carmela Fair came and talked with SACE about textbooks adoption, because some concerns had been raised from your constituents around some publishers who were releasing information. So that's how that conversation started. And what Dr. Fair assured us, she talked about the process. And one thing she shares that it starts with the textbook evaluation advisors, which is typically teachers who look at text, and then they make a recommendation to the group that Dr. Oxendine was referring to, those who officially sit on the textbook commission. But it starts with this group here. And we asked some questions around there being some specific appointments of American Indian educators, because the social studies adoption is happening this year. And we want to ensure that the representation is accurate that is in that textbook. We were told that there could not be any special consideration, and what I mean by that is specific seats held to ensure that American Indians were on that. But what she did assure me of was that when the time came to start recruiting for that advisory group, that she would let us know. So she has done that. I have forwarded that email to you, but I wanted to present it here. So this is what that looks like. So I want to draw your attention back to it, because I know you get lots of emails within a day, and ask you to pay some special attention to this. If you could scroll down, Dr. Briggs. There are some hyperlinks within that document which tell you specific grades there for social. You'll see one for English language arts and one for social studies. And then there's a indicate your interest by completing a form of consideration. And the completed interest is due by today. As soon as we got it, we sent it out to you all. So I would encourage some very intentional recruitment of folks to say, hey, please go in and fill out this application so we can ensure there is American Indian representation, to make sure we push that out to some folks today. So Chairman Locklear, I'm going to turn it back to you, maybe so we can have a little bit more discussion around a strategic approach to this, to ensuring that we get this to some key American Indian educators who we know would certainly be happy to serve in that role.
Thank you, Dr. Silver. So I would just ask all the SACE members to go back to this email, push it out to anyone that you may know, and to get this completed today so that we do have that representation.
Madam Chair, this is Olivia. If I could ask a question, I might have missed this in the discussion. Is there, Dr. Silver, is there a deadline for submitting this application?
So that interest form is due today.
Okay, oh my, it's due today. Maybe some SACE members, I don't know. It would be good, because we've talked about representation on these committees for a while. So it would be great if we could get, I know that we're running out of time as we speak, but if we could get some Native Americans on these, at this level, because this is where the work is done in terms of reviewing these books. It's at the advisory level. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair.
Dr. Locklear, I had a quick question.
Sure.
Hey, I'm sorry. This is Camille Laney. It's more of a comment, I guess. We did talk about in our last meeting where I did a presentation for the Social Studies Institute. And as far as advocating with Stacy and with American Indian students, the education material and stuff going out, I think it's really important that Stacy not only get on the boards and commissions and advisory councils for the information going out in social studies, but also that we have a representative to instruct our educators. The institute that I fought for was 100 of the top administrators in the state that they had really good questions. There were some technical difficulties in the presentation, but for the most part, they had really good questions, some interest that they weren't. I brought up the mascot issue, the stuff that we have done in the past. I even read the part from our report regarding the mascot, and a lot of them didn't even know that. So I think it's really good for us to either have like a subcommittee or something that particularly focuses on this area of making sure that our information gets out, like advocates that information get out to people.
Thank you, Ms. Lannon, and thank you for serving that in that capacity to complete that presentation so that our constituents are informed. Thank you indeed. So you're suggesting that you think that we should have a subcommittee of SACE that ensures that we have representation for the social studies and textbook committee? Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, I guess what my idea of the subcommittee would be is just to get the information out, make sure that our educators are educated and have the resources, like be a point of contact for SACE, to make sure that the module's out there, to make sure that we go to the social studies conference. There was another conference, I think, that Ms. Deborah Williams had me go to present the report, but also to give information on American Indians within the state. So, because we all know that there's a lack of that knowledge, that they know that we're there, but they don't know how to get the resources. But I did include in my presentation communications for Stacy, the information to get to Mr. Richardson, I tried to give as much information out as I could, and the link for the module. I gave that information out to them as well, but just making sure that we as a group are still not overseeing, but just making sure that that information gets out there, or that they have a point of contact, and that we have people that are willing to go out and present, this is what we're doing, this is, our purpose, and we're just here to help you get information out. Accurate, culturally responsible information.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. Are there any other questions or comments at this time? Okay, thank you. So we'll go back up into the agenda. I think Ms. Barber has joined us. And so now we will hear from the Office of Learning Recovery, Ms. Tina Lance and Ms. Lynn Barber. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having us. So I was just notified that I could share my screen, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. But first I'll introduce myself. My name is Lynn Barber. I'm the Deputy Director for the Office of Learning Recovery. And thanks to Tina for inviting Dr. Marr and I on. Dr. Marr is not able to be here today. But I'm going to give just an overview of who we are. I used to say we're new, but I guess at this point we've been around a year. We are an office that is ESSER funded, ESSER focused, and really focused on the funding that is coming into our state and how we can identify best practices, evidence-based interventions, and then measure on the back end if those really work so that we can provide a robust data set back to multiple parties, including groups like this one. Obviously, the state board is extremely important, the legislature, and obviously our industry peers in this state across the country. So this is just a really basic overview of our office. And then what I would love to know is how can we support SACE, and then how can we continue to support our Native American students across the state of North Carolina. So with that, I will go ahead and share, and I will go through slideshow from beginning. All right. So again, we are the Office of Learning, Recovery, and Acceleration. We are, at this point, 4 people. I think we're going to grow to 6, and that's as big as we'll get. Lean and efficient is our motto. So Dr. Marr, Dr. Korn is Director of Research and Evaluation. We'll mention some of her work here in a minute. I'm the Deputy Director, so my focus really is the identification and implementation of some of these larger scale programs, right now most of which have been either directed by the General Assembly or appropriated by the General Assembly, obviously with the guidance and approval by the State Board of Education. And then we have a couple research folks. We have a qualitative and a quantitative, and Dr. Molinex, I will mention some of her work as well. She is part-time with us. And she has some great work on promising practices. So again, I don't necessarily need to read this to you, but this is our mission. We want to partner with anyone that wants to partner with us. If anything, we want to embrace with open arms anyone who obviously has the same vision and mission, which I hope anyone in public education would have, is to support our students, specifically how we can help identify ways to bring them back up to speed of where they would have been prior to the pandemic, and hopefully identify ways that we can accelerate their learning. I'm going to quickly go through these. When I talk about programs, a lot of the programs that we have launched statewide are an ESSER-funded appropriation from the General Assembly. They essentially gave us money and legislation. We provided the guardrails, and then those were approved by the State Board, and we are now implementing them across the state. So these are launching, some of them are launching this month, but many of them are launching in June. So we, after last summer, when there was House Bill 82, the statewide school extension program, which was the really large summer school, these were 2 appropriations, and we did a lot of site visits, and we kind of identified some really cool ways to engage students outside of the traditional academic year. So this one is a Summer Bridge Academy. Most of the, I think, 112 LEAs and a handful of PSUs are doing these. And there's actually some schools and communities that are using this model, even though they didn't necessarily take the funding. And it's to focus on students who are in those kind of gap bridge grades, so like the rising K, 6, 9, 12, or where they saw a real deficiency in terms of acceleration. So specifically Math 1, there's going to be some STEM camps, and there's even some EL camps. Everyone was impacted, as you know, and so there's even some AIG students who are going to get some cool programs this summer to help get them back on track. The other one we're doing is a Career Accelerator program, and this is in partnership, you see at the bottom, with a lot of really what I think are awesome organizations or nonprofits to focus on, the superintendent talks about the year of the workforce. So how can we get students engaged earlier than, junior, senior year in what that next step is, right? So the 3 E's, are they enrolled, are they enlisted, or are they employed? All are very viable options, but we would really love for them to be one of those 3. And we really believe that starts young. As a parent of someone who's in 6th grade, my son tells me, I care too much about education. And I'm like, but honey, that's my job. But right, like career development plans for those middle schoolers, engagement with workforce boards, communities, learning about just what's out there, whether it's working in your local community, like being a plant manager, or small business owner or getting a certification, all the way to, drone technology. And so this was at the discretion of the community, obviously, because what is an in-demand field varies across the state. And there's some really cool stuff that's going to come out of this one. And then these were in the recent state budget. So there has been such excitement around the Career Accelerator program, specifically from the CTE directors. They have to really confine to the Perkins funding. And so this is a way for those teachers or those teams to kind of do something that has a little more flexibility. We all know federal funding doesn't have a lot of flexibility, but there's a few guardrails that have been removed so they can create something enticing for students to maybe get a taste of what CTE looks like, or maybe try something they wouldn't have the ability to try during the academic year. So this one will launch this summer. And again, these are funds from ESSER 3, so they're good through 2023 and 2024. And then I will mention this report in a minute, but there was a report that our office did that we've presented across the state. And I'm not one of the ones that presented, but if we have not presented to this group, we are more than happy to come in person or do it virtually. And there were really kind of extreme gaps in math. Middle grades math. And so with this appropriation, we decided to create a math enrichment program where you can use out of school time. So before, after school, even on the weekends is how we're writing it. And the chart of accounts aligns to the 21st century grants so that you can do contracts, you can partner with nonprofits, use your local YMCAs, bring in tutors, even bring back retirees who have are formally licensure in the specific grades in math, to help create kind of an enticing, exciting program to help bring our students in this state. Some of them are multiple grades behind. So how can we help move them forward to get them where they need to be successful? And again, the timeline is the same. So I'll pause right here and say that my role is to help develop the guidance documents, the data collection, provide technical support for any PSU across the state who is eligible and applies for these funds. And so it's really exciting to engage and see district leaders try to think of something that they could do with this funding that maybe could be sustainable, is really what we're trying to focus on now. If this works, how is it sustainable moving forward so that we can prove it worked, and then we can maybe provide some suggestions or support in ways that they could get additional funding past the September 30th, 2024, when the ESSER funds expire. And so in all of these programs, and I would say every school district, right? I mean, sometimes the media is not the kindest. And we all know that districts are working really hard to support their staff and their students. And our role is when we go out and do site visits isn't to find the things that are wrong. We want to lift up the amazing work that our school districts are doing. And one of the ways that we're doing that is a Promising Practices Clearinghouse. And that is Dr. Angie Molinex, who oversees this. And her contact info will be at the end. And this is just a way for nonprofits or even for-profits who work with any community partners who work with a school district to provide supports for school districts themselves to essentially self-report ways that they are maybe uniquely or successfully supporting teachers, administrators, district personnel, and our students. And we're creating this as a way to share best practices or promising practices. We don't like to say the word best because what is the definition of best, right? Promising practices that could then be modified within your specific district, school, or PSU. So we're going to work really hard this summer as we're doing site visits for those programs to just lift up anything that we see or that they think is going to be a promising practice that we could share the great work that our school districts are doing. There's a couple strands, and this is based on Operation Polaris. You can see Learning, Recovery, and Acceleration is our office, District and School Transformation, Accountability and Testing, Literacy, Student Support Services, and Human Capital. And I know there's a lot of work around human capital because our teacher pipeline is so important. And I think there's a lot of great ideas and a lot of great minds that are trying to work together to see how we can strengthen that pipeline. And I sent the links, or I added the links into these, and obviously, hopefully you guys will get these PowerPoints and so that you can access them. This is the clearinghouse. There is a guidance document should you have any ideas or anything you want to self-report to share. And then every month, Dr. Molinex creates this one-pager that lifts up some of the great work that the districts are doing. And so Dr. Korn and her two research analysts are really focusing on research and evaluation priorities. And they just have, I think, finished up, if not, they're finishing up very soon, a statewide roadshow. The first presentation started, obviously, with the State Board of Education, and we have been traveling the state. We went to some of the local school board association meetings, and I know that Dr. Korn has been going to the RESA meetings to talk about this lost instructional time, like impact analysis that they did in partnership with the EVOS team at SAS. And those slides are not in here. I did have one that I will show if there is time. But this is kind of the priorities of what her team is doing. And the purpose is really, right, evaluating the implementation and impact of interventions. A lot of times we say it works, but do we know it works? And everyone knows that data is so important. It's almost kind of like a buzzword now. If you listen to any of the legislative sessions that have been going on about the future of North Carolina education, everyone wants the data. And so our job is hopefully to live up to that expectation to provide data, whether it is proving it that it works or saying this doesn't work. We are certainly not biased in one way or the other. We just want to be able to provide the data to show if they work or not. And again, sustaining, we welcome feedback on that. Sustaining these programs and the funding for those are certainly hard, and we're trying to create a toolkit that we can deploy across the state in partnership with the agency and some external partners in the state board to make sure that our districts and our schools are set up for success when they're having to go in and prove or disprove some of these programs and ask for additional funding once the ESSER is done. Again, these are just some slides, and this is a lot of, these are hyperlinks too for some of the reports that I've mentioned, and some of the things that are driving the decisions that our office makes on a regular basis. Everything we do wants to have our students and teachers first and be evidence-based, data-driven decisions. I won't go through these, but as every time we present, these are the 3 questions that we just ask our audience to consider. So I'll just give a second for you to read those. And on 3, what is the return on investment cost benefit analysis? We're really trying to find a way to work with external funders to do, I'm pushing for a CBA because that's a little more robust than an ROI to really see what the benefit of some of these programs and appropriations are to our education community. All right, so this is a lot, and I'm not going to go through this, but Dr. Korn loves a logic model, and we do too. She would be happy to come and do a logic model with anyone who wants to do a logic model. So there's a bunch of slides in here about our logic model. I won't take the time to read through it, but I just wanted to do it more as a visualization of the thought and intent. We had a lot of stakeholders, all the leadership at DPI, members of state board, some external constituents about how we shape our focus. As ESSER funded, right, we only have a couple years to really focus on how we could support our students and our districts. So our strategies are targeted academic interventions, enrichment programs, quality educational materials, state-level diagnostic tools, support the educator workforce, and disseminate promising practices. So again, our office isn't doing all of this. We are partnering with subject matter experts and all of the great folks within our agency and the state board to make sure that we're helping support every one of these. And here are some outcomes. Each school is led by a high quality and well-prepared principal. Each classroom is led by a high quality and well-prepared teacher. Students are prepared for the post-secondary, we're going to change that, it's pathway of their choice, and schools have met the educational needs of all families. And while those seem simple enough, we all know that those are a mighty lift for some, and we're doing our best, hopefully, to support some of those outcomes or provide resources and data behind the ways to support the outcomes. And so with that, I put some links in here. So if there's any questions about the actual programs that we're supporting, that would be me. If you're interested in the promising practices, that would be Dr. Molinex, and then the research and evaluation. So again, Dr. Korn would be more than happy for her and her team to come and do an actual presentation on the lost instructional time impact analysis to any group, one person or 500. They would love to share that information. And then if you would like to know more kind of like about what we are, here's some just links to our website. We just started a blog, Research and Recovery Roundup. We love some alliteration in OLR. And this is just going to be some summaries of what we've done, some of our reports. So there'll be a blog, and there's always going to be like a white paper attached to that for dissemination. Of course, we have to have a Twitter account, and then obviously the link again to the Promising Practices Clearinghouse. It's hard for me to say that today. And so with that, that is actually the end of my presentation. Stop sharing my screen. So a lot of information, but Dr. Silver, I'm happy to answer any questions if there's time in the agenda to do so.
This is Dorothy Yates. Is it possible that you could share your presentation with us through email?
Absolutely, I'd be happy to.
And especially the contact information. I didn't have time to get all that down. So if you could please share that with us, I would appreciate it. And how is this information being shared with our local education agencies?
So what, can you be more specific on what information?
Any of this, the promising practices, the math enrichment program, the summer programs. How is this information being shared with our local education agencies?
Yeah, great question. I would say a couple different ways. So we post in a couple different newsletters. So the top 10 update that comes through the communications department at DPI. Sometimes there's a great newsletter that comes from Ann Murtha from the state board. If we have some kind of statewide updates, she'll put one in there. I send information to the CAOs. The ones that are relevant to CTE, we'll put that in the listserv for the CTE directors. Everything is on our website. We do a lot of webinars, and then we're doing a lot of road shows. And so again, we just spoke to the three. I feel like there was three local board. They had their I think it was their spring meeting. So we presented there. We haven't been on the state board agenda for a month or so. But I think every month for like the past year, we've had a presentation. So a lot of emails to different constituents. And the programs, I have a point of contact who are the ones who typically plan the programs. And that's either the CAO or like assistant superintendent, and they'll get communication from me. And then Dr. Marr communicates a lot with the superintendents. But again, right, there's a lot of silos and there's a lot of people doing things. And so I welcome Dorothy's feedback if there's a way that we can help push this information out even further, because we want to make sure that everyone has access to what they might need. And there's a lot of emails. I get that too. Even you get so many emails, and to read it, I know that sometimes our emails probably get lost in the mix of that influx. But again, I welcome feedback if there's other ways that we can stay in touch with folks. And the programs, I think one thing, the federal programs team has an email that goes out to federal program managers. And so if we have a new program opening in CCIP, they'll send that. And then like last week, I did a presentation to all of the like the home-based power school administrators. So we make sure the data folks understand what's going on. There's just a lot of touch points. So I'm sure we're missing some.
This is Amanda Forsard. Thank you, Mrs. Barber, for a very detailed PowerPoint presentation. I absolutely am going to look more into this, and I can see is attached to our agenda, so we can just click and view it there as well.
Okay.
But I was wondering, also speaking to our chairperson, Dr. Tiffany, if we could have Dr. Korn come in and do the presentation on the logistics, just to have that fresh in our mind and get a more detailed logistics approach to it.
And I know, so for us, I can speak for Jenny and say, yes, you guys find some times and she will be there, whether it's in person or virtually. So if you want to communicate that to me and I can CC her, and then we can set that up, she would be more than happy to. She has a whole presentation that shows, essentially it's the last like EOGs, EOCs that the students took. And then they did like a predictive analysis of where students would have been if the pandemic had not happened. And it shows based on, there's a couple slides based on subgroups. So it doesn't necessarily disaggregate by school district. We're not doing anything like that. But it disaggregates by subgroup, by gender, by ethnicity, AIG, non-AIG, socioeconomic status. So you can see which students, and some students actually did progress. Actually, they did learn new content, but it kind of shows by subgroup what students fell behind. So she is the expert in that, and she would be more than happy to come and present to that.
Barbara, once the new, once Stacy's upcoming meetings are set, we will certainly put you all, extend an invite for the next meeting that they have. So I'll be getting up with you all.
Great, thank you.
Hi, this is Tina Lance. Thank you, Ms. Barber, for presenting today. Dorothy, you were asking about the local, as far as the information. I know here in Buncombe County, the information, was released, and I know like at my son's high school, they have created a tutoring after-school program that is 3 days a week that students can stay after school to receive help. And this is being funded by some of the funds that were allotted for that. And there's teachers that are a part of this, and they're staying 3 days a week till 4:15 to assist the students to try to recover what they had lost during the COVID pandemic. So I do know they're doing that in Buncombe County.
Yeah, thank you, Tina. So I know at least each LEA has received their EVOS data from this analysis. I'm not sure which charters requested. I don't have that. I got the LEA list today. I didn't get the list of any other PSUs, but that data is available in Power School on a district or school basis. We are not combining and doing any comparative analysis between district and district or charter school and charter school, but that information obviously is a PSU's, and they can certainly share that. And our office is happy to facilitate a conversation because we've received that request. If District A data isn't actually as bad as like the overall statewide data, what are they doing that maybe this district over here isn't doing? So again, we're not going to put that together to compare it. We just don't feel it's a best practice to create a comparative analysis between PSUs. However, we are happy to facilitate a conversation around how to really read all the scatter plots and dig into the data to see maybe where this one excelled and why, and how that could support this district or school over here. So those are two things that we would be more than happy to help out with.
Thank you, Ms. Barber. I would just like to say that, learning loss is, it was part of our safety recommendations, our 2021 safety recommendations, which are on page 7. And I would ask that you guys look at number 4. That's the recommendation to kind of identify the goal that we had moving forward. Especially as you advertise and market these summer programs and all the things that you have going on, if we could be really intentional about potentially sharing those with our Title VI coordinators. I know that doesn't always happen from the district level, but if we could share the emails of our Title VI coordinators, and you could include include them on the emails, that would be most helpful for us.
That I'm more than happy to do that. And I see a Title VI update. So if someone maybe could touch base with me offline about where to get that list, I have a running list of who my contacts are for programs. I would be happy to drop those in there and make sure that those contacts get that information. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Dr. Briggs will be in touch with lists of the Title VII coordinators, Title VI coordinators.
Thank you so much. Yeah, absolutely. And I always say I trust generously and assume positive intent. We never leave anyone out on purpose. So we want to be as inclusive as possible. So thank you for letting me know that those coordinators are not on my list.
Thank you. Ms. Tina Lance, would you like to share anything with us as a committee member? Would you like to share anything with SACE as it relates to the Office of Learning Loss?
I think the main thing Ms. Barber had relayed to that, what we're doing and what I'm doing is trying to work with like the local principal there at my high school and trying to, make sure that Buncombe County knows that I'm sitting on that committee and any information that, I can assist with that. The big thing that I know in Buncombe County, we definitely have increased the Twilight School to where we can have students participate in that to where they can recover from where they lost credit and as far as for graduation as well. So that's mainly the big thing. I know Dr. Mayor had some information he was going to share. And unfortunately, he was out, but I'm glad that Ms. Barber was able to do that for us today.
Thank you.
And Dr. Korn can, prior to her presenting on that impact analysis, if there's a request to disaggregate the data by subgroup, I don't know that she'll present it again by a specific school or even district, but by subgroup of students, we'll go ahead and we'll give her that request, and they can go ahead and even modify the presentation further to make sure that we're pulling out the outcomes that that you most want to see.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions for Ms. Barber or Ms. Lance? All right. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you, Ms. Barber, for joining us. And we look forward to continuing our collaboration and partnership with you guys.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting us. And thank you, Tina and Dr. Silver. Again, we look forward to continuing this partnership, and please let us know how we can support in any way. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. You as well. Next on our agenda, we will do the recognition of outgoing SACE members. On behalf of SACE, I would just like to say that I certainly appreciate the community service that each of you have offered to the State Advisory Council on Indian Education. It is such an important role and a necessary role. So I thank you for supporting the American Indian students in the state of North Carolina. Our first, and I'll just read each one of them. The North Carolina State Board of Education and the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction recognizes and appreciates Mr. Frank Cooper for dedication to promoting academic achievement and high school graduation for Native American students as a member of the State Advisory Council on Indian Education. Thank you, Mr. Frank Cooper. The North Carolina State Board of Education and the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction recognizes and appreciates Ms. Margot Howard for dedication to promoting academic achievement and high school graduation for Native American students as a member of the State Advisory Council on Indian Education. Thank you, Ms. Howard. The North Carolina Carolina State Board of Education and the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction recognizes and appreciates Ms. Melissa Lee for dedication to promoting academic achievement and high school graduation for Native American students as a member of the State Advisory Council on Indian Education. Thank you, Ms. Lee. And the North Carolina State Board of Education and the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction recognizes and appreciates Ms. Angela Richardson for dedication to promoting academic achievement and high school graduation for Native American students as a member of the State Advisory Council on Indian Education. Thank you, Ms. Richardson.
Thank you for the opportunity to serve.
Thank each of you for serving in this capacity. All right, next, are there any announcements at this time?
Madam Chair, I just want to note, I'm going to drop into the chat the direct link to that interest survey. It's very short to complete. This is the interest survey for the textbook evaluation recruitment, because when you click on one of those links, it's then buried within there. So I'm putting the direct link into the chat. And as I was looking through it, I believe it says you have to be a certified teacher, and for the social studies one, currently teaching social studies. So please brainstorm those specific people that you could reach out to today, and ask them for a personal favor to complete it. Again, it's a really simple form. It's not an application, it's truly a form. So I've just dropped a direct link into the chat.
Thank you. One of the things that I would just like to discuss and us to potentially consider planning is another summit on American Indian education. We know that ESSA requires tribal consultation and meaningful collaborations between our public schools and tribes. I know we have some outgoing members, but I do want to kind of put that on our agenda. I think it's really important that our Title VI coordinators and our tribal leaders and communities have that collaboration and support within their districts, but most importantly that our American Indian students are being served. So we want to be intentional about those practices. So I do want us to begin at least thinking about a date, and then we could get that planning started. I thought that very first summit was great. And I really think we need to do that again. Any feedback, comments, questions?
Chairwoman Locklear, I'll just share, I love that you're bringing this up early. As anybody knows who's been involved in that type of planning, it takes a lot of time and effort to plan something when you want to do it in a good way and in a right way. So I appreciate you bringing this to the forefront early. And as everybody, I know it's a very broad topic right now, but even narrowing it down to what time of year and thinking about things that happen over the course of a year and what might be that best insertion point is certainly a great place to start. So thank you for raising that up early.
Yes, I know last time it was like really late. We struggled with finding a space. So even if we could solidify a space sometime soon and then get that planning started, I think it's really important for our district leaders to hear about and be informed about these Title VI funds and how they should be used within our districts. So if anyone has any suggestions for at least a place now, I guess we could begin solidifying a space. And then once our new members have been added to the committee, we could begin working toward planning the summit.
This is Amanda Forsard. Dr. Locklear, just because I'm new, just so I understand, so this would be a summit to kind of get all the district Title VI coordinators and collaborate with them to make sure that they're getting all the information that they need, and we're there to help them if they do not have, like, for instance, Title VI coordinators. Is that what we're talking about?
Yes, so when Dr. Connie Locklear was the chair, she had the very first summit on American Indian education, and it was just a day-long summit, a one-day-long summit in which Title VI directors were invited, tribal leaders were invited, members of the community, and we did have a few breakout sessions. And did presentations on tribal consultation and meaningful collaboration. And we had a guest speaker, and we had a panel on how to support American Indian students in North Carolina. So it was just a one-day long event, but it was really informative for our district leaders, because we don't want to lose the importance of that tribal consultation and meaningful collaboration, and what that means and looks like and feels like within districts. We don't want to just check the box. We want to be really intentional, and that's the title of our SACE report this year, bringing forth that intentionality. So that's kind of the purpose of the Indian Education Summit. Dr. Super, if you want to add any additional details. Or anyone else that attended that summit.
I just wanted to add, I love the idea. So I'm glad that I understood completely what you were talking about. And I would really like to see if we could get it happening maybe like as soon as school starts, because for instance, at my kids' school district, there is no Title VI coordinator. And if we get it started that early, and we have possibly even superintendents of schools who do not have Title VI coordinators, that can get the ball rolling and give them more information and kind of feedback as to what Title VI is and how important and necessary it is within their schools and districts. So if it could happen sooner rather than later, I think would be a great idea. Thank you.
And I'm sorry, I was muted earlier when you called on me. Luckily, I'm just sharing the summit agenda. And one correction I will make: there were some summits prior to these years. This was the first one that I had been involved in helping them plan. So this one, and can you all see that on the screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, thank you. So as she said, the theme around this one was coming out of the ESSA requirements around consultation and meaningful collaboration, because we've identified that as a weak link in communication, but also in understanding among districts that receive any type of Title VI funding. So that's what they decided, what the council at that time decided the focus would be. So I'm going to scroll down to the agenda just so you can see what it was about. And the focus for this one was not just the Title VI coordinators, but also making sure district senior leadership was there to help them understand what that needed to look like. And so there ended up being 2 breakout sessions around tribal consultation, one geared towards the Title VI coordinators or directors, and then one geared towards district level folks. So there you'll see opening, a welcome. Then we had some welcoming, setting the stage. And then we had a topic where we had someone come in and speak about tribal consultation. We actually had the NIEA executive director there to speak to that. And then you'll see the 2 breakout sessions. And again, one focused on one group, one focused on another. And then we came back together where we had a lunch with a keynote speaker, which was Katie Eatings, who at the time was a regional teacher of the year and who's American Indian from the Lumbee tribe, to speak. And then we had featured speakers from each of the tribes who had specific projects going on that related to how tribes themselves are addressing their cultural education in their communities, with the goal being for the district representation that was there to see the things that the American Indian communities are doing so that they could make those connections and realize they should really be tapping into those things to really bring them into the education and the curriculum of their students. And then there was a panel discussion, a presentation of the culturally responsive teaching models, and those were the 2 days. And I can send everyone a link to this who wasn't there, because it gives you the bios on the speakers who were there. So that is what the last summit looked like.
Thank you, Dr. Silver. So if we can begin thinking about a time, I guess a time and a space, right? When's the best time to do this, and then a space? Yes.
This is Rodney Jackson. If you and Dr. Silver would give me a date, I'm sure Coleman County would love to host it.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
I know. Thank you, indeed. Dr. Silver and I will kind of discuss this and potentially have at least a time frame available for the next SACY meeting. How does that sound, Dr. Silver?
Sure, and we can discuss before it, and maybe just send out something consensus. That way we can get that to Mr. Rodney as soon as possible so we can nail something down. Because the next SACY meeting potentially won't be until August or September.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. All right. Thank you. Are there any? Mm-hmm.
This is Dorothy Yates. I know that in planning it, we had to look carefully to make sure that these same people would not be at different workshops or the social studies convention or different items, to make sure that we didn't require these people to be out of their jobs too much within the very same time period. So I know the fall is usually busy, so we'll need to look carefully at the calendar because we want to plan it when we can have the most people that will be available to attend.
Thank you, Ms. Dorothy.
Hey, Dr. Locker, this is Cameo. In the previous, I've sat on like the subcommittees previously for the Education Summit, and I'll reiterate what Ms. Yates said is we found like January, February were a really good time to do it. I think they had tried to change it one time prior to when I was there, and it just conflicted with testing and time whenever teachers would be out of the classroom and we wouldn't be able to get them into our summit.
Okay, thank you. We had the last one in January too, right, Dr. Silver? That one was in January.
Yes, I can't recall the exact date, but yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So maybe we can think about that time frame, January. Thank you guys for that historical knowledge and feedback. Anyone else? All right. Thank you guys for taking time out of your day to serve in this capacity. You are appreciated. I hope you all have a good, happy, healthy, safe summer. And I look forward to reconvening in August, September. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.